Chapter 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After signing in for 50 years, I became a big shot of the vampires. Author, Fang Qingyan. Fang Qingyan traveled to a foreign land of swords and magic, with hundreds of races fighting and ups and downs in the chaotic world. Unfortunately, he became a vampire, and even more unfortunately, he became the weakest and most humble last generation of vampires. Unexpectedly, the sign-in system was awakened, and as long as you sign in, you can get amazing rewards. Sign in at Count Castain's castle to get Count level Vampire Blood X1. Sign in at the ancestral land of the vampires, Lahmia City, to get the artifact Protection of the Ancestor Lilith. Sign in the coffin of Lord Duke Dracula to get the superpower Mind Reading. Fang Qingyan kept a low profile in the ancestral land, and made up his mind not to come out until he cultivated the true body of the ancestor and ascended to the throne of God. Until one day 50 years later, the orc army of the kingdom of Azeroth crossed the Draenor Mountains and entered the ancestral land of the vampires. Seeing that the vampires were about to be exterminated, Fang Qingyan could no longer keep a low profile due to his strength. The ancestral land of the Blood Clan, Nikera, the city of Lahmia, the huge underground palace was dimly lit, with candles swaying behind the grid, and the shadows of a group of people could be vaguely seen. There were about 100 people, all wrapped in wide black robes, standing in a reserved and respectful manner. The three people standing in front of the crowd were wearing red robes, full of lofty majesty. It was obvious that the awe of these people was dedicated to these three people. They also enjoyed the awe of the crowd as a matter of course, because in the city of Lahmia, only nobles were qualified to wear red robes. There was no doubt that these three blood clans had noble blood flowing in their bodies. You were originally the dustmen of Nikera, the last generation of the blood clan with the lowest bloodline. One of the nobles spoke with a tone full of arrogance. If the adults in the city of Lahmia were not in need of some people to serve, you would never have the chance to step into this sacred place in your life. Understand that whether it was his expression or his tone, this guy was super asking for a beating. But none of the hundreds of people in the field dared to say a word. Okay, next I will start arranging the adults who will follow and serve you, one by one in order. Fang Qingyan, who was standing at the back of the crowd, sighed in his heart. He was not originally from this world. Rebirth is rebirth, although it is nonsense, it is barely acceptable, but rebirth as a vampire is very devastating. Directly, I can't even be a human being. And he is the last vampire of the lowest bloodline. Your name is Edward, right? You are assigned to Count Castain. Someone will send you to the Count's mansion later. Someone will arrange your specific job. Fang Qingyan was stunned for a second before he realized that Edward Dracula was his name in this world, so he bowed quickly and said, "Okay, thank you, sir." That the red-robed man glanced at him and said jokingly, "You are lucky, Count Castain is famous for his good temper. Remember to serve the master well and do your job well after you go there." Fang Qingyan didn't know what this Castain was, but he nodded subconsciously. After the group was assigned, someone led them out from the passage on the side. Although the last vampire was the lowest vampire, now that he has become a waiter for the nobles, his status has risen a lot. At least he will be called the new generation of vampires instead of the last generation of vampires. Although the meaning is the same, it was the height of the day, and the vampire's property of dying in the light forced all the blood clans to wrap themselves in thick robes. After leaving the underground, Fang Qingyan quickly got on a carriage and was sent to the mansion of his master. In addition to the guide, there were three young men who were selected as noble attendants like him. However, they did not talk to each other. In this way, they arrived at the luxurious mansion of Count Castain in silence. The big iron gate opened, an old butler came out, and after a brief conversation with the guide, he looked at Fang Qingyan and the other two. "Come in first. You will be responsible for cleaning the garden and cleaning the Earl's study every day. The study needs to be cleaned twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. As for the salary, ordinary meals are provided twice a day, blood food is provided once a day, 3 silver coins are issued every month, and 2 sets of clothes are replenished every year." Fang Qingyan followed the old housekeeper in a daze, walked around the huge mansion inside and out, and then was taken to a small house. "This is where you will live in the future. Apart from work, don't run around. Although the Earl has a good temper, if you make a serious mistake, you will still be executed. At the end, he deliberately explained, finally, it was time for one person to be alone. Fang Qingyan watched the old housekeeper walk away, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open to go in. The layout inside was very simple, with a bed, a table, a chair, and a cabinet. Although it was shabby, it was also neat. After locking the door, Fang Qingyan's expression suddenly became lively, and the previous dullness was swept away. He pretended to be honest just to protect himself. He was actually very smart. We have to find a way to leave this damn place and go to the cities and countries with humans. As soon as the thought came up, Fang Qingyan suddenly became a little depressed. With my current weak strength, I may not survive for more than 3 minutes after leaving the city of Lahmia. This world is dangerous. The vampires are just the tip of the iceberg. As far as the information he has learned so far, in addition to the vampires, there are also demons, beasts, demons, giants, angels and gods. Many powerful races in this world, all regard each other as aliens. Even human knights and magicians will kill the vampires mercilessly once they discover them. In contrast, staying in the Blood Clan's ancestral land and lingering is a better choice. To put it bluntly, this is a world where strength is respected, where the weak eat the strong. Fang Qingyan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. The best outcome for a weak and last-generation vampire like me is to become someone else's servant. Only by serving the strong can we survive. He was very unwilling, but if you have no background and no bloodline, what's the use of being unwilling? Tomorrow morning I have to put away my unnecessary thoughts and clean up the garden and study for my master. Honestly, the vampire clan is a highly hierarchical ethnic group. Here, bloodline determines everything. Nobility and humbleness are determined from birth. The lowest is the last generation of vampires, the untouchables among the vampires. Above the last generation of vampires are the civilian-level traditional vampires, but they are just civilians. In the city of Lahmia, the only ones who truly have powerful positions are those high-ranking nobles, baron, viscount, earl, marquis, duke, prince. Even the lowliest baron has a splendor that commoners can't even imagine. Gone. Am I destined to be a humble servant for the rest of my life? Fang Qingyan wanted to vent his anger, but he was afraid that the walls had ears, so in the end he only dared to beep quietly. If the old housekeeper discovers that this little servant has other intentions, he will definitely be dead. Ding! The sign-in system has successfully awakened. The system has been successfully bound to the host. Would you like to check in here? Yes/no. Listen to the voice in your head. Fang Qingyan's spirit suddenly shook. System. The dog said it. I knew God wouldn't be so cruel to me. Fang Qingyan, who has been immersed in internet literature for many years, certainly knows what this means. His golden finger is online. Chapter 2. Fang Qingyan took a deep breath and slowly calmed down his excitement, then he asked with some expectation. Before signing in, can you introduce your functions to me in detail? Of course, the core of this system is the sign-in mechanism. The host can sign in once a day at any place, and then receive the corresponding sign-in reward. The more special the sign-in location, the more generous the reward will be. The system made it very clear, and Fang Qingyan understood its meaning. Just like the daily check-in in online games, some small rewards will be given to increase the player's online rate, but Fang Qingyan has never heard of an online game where signing in will give you artifacts, beasts, and precious mounts. So his system shouldn't be as powerful as those heaven-defying systems in novels, right? However, Fang Qingyan quickly came to his senses. The system was already showing mercy to God. What kind of bicycle do you want? Taking a deep breath, he said solemnly, sign in. As soon as he finished speaking, a system voice prompt sounded in his ears. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in and receiving a drop of Earl-level blood essence. A crimson light lit up, and then something appeared in Fang Qingyan's hand. It was a drop of brightly colored blood. Pure and huge life energy surged within it, and an extremely hot feeling was transmitted to his skin, the essence and blood of an Earl-level vampire. Fang Qingyan's breathing suddenly became extremely heavy, and his narrow eyes suddenly turned crimson, and he stared at them, unable to move away. My throat was extremely dry, as if a thirsty desert traveler suddenly saw a clear spring. The instinctive reaction from his body filled him with an unprecedented desire for this drop of blood, the fatal temptation that rises to the level of the soul. Hoochied up with great difficulty, Fang Qingyan overcame his impulse, didn't swallow it all in one bite, the result of doing that is to explode and die. Chapter 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's a bit humble to say that Fang Qingyan, the last generation of the vampire clan, can't even bear the life energy of a drop of blood essence of the Earl vampire clan. I take back the idea just now, system, you are really awesome. His eyes were extremely hot, and his body trembled slightly with excitement. The vampire clan is a race that cannot become stronger by its own efforts, because the only way for the vampire clan to become stronger is to improve their bloodline and thus sublimate their own life level, and the only way to improve their bloodline is to rely on the blood essence given by the high-level vampire clan. If the high-level vampire clan wants to advance, they can only ask for higher quality blood essence. From the higher-level vampire clan, the strict hierarchy of the vampire clan has its reasons. After all, the growth path has been blocked by people, you can't take it directly. Fang Qingyan stood up, picked up a water cup from the table, poured half a cup of water, and then put the blood essence into it. He picked up the cup and shook it until the blood essence was diluted. Then he put his mouth close to it and drank a mouthful of the diluted blood essence of the Earl. Buzzed up, the blood went into his throat, and it was as hot as boiling water, which was extremely painful. The tongue coating was even burned with blisters. Fang Qingyan wanted to spit it out, but in the end he gritted his teeth and endured the discomfort. Blood was spilling from the corner of his mouth, but he didn't say a word. If God wants to give a man a great responsibility, he must first make his heart and mind suffer and his muscles and bones work hard. If I can't even bear this little bit of hardship, I will fail the cultivation of the system. I don't want to be a useless person, and I am willing to pay the price to become stronger. Fang Qingyan clenched his fists, and his will was extremely firm. 3 minutes later, the piercing pain suddenly dissipated. Instead, a warm current like a spring breeze began to spread from the abdomen to the limbs. Fang Qingyan could clearly feel the huge changes happening in his body. Muscles, bones, fascia, skin, are being baptized by life energy, just like the reshaping of the body and soul. After everything was over, Fang Qingyan was shocked. He swung a few punches in the air, each punch breaking through the air, strong and powerful. The physical strength has increased by at least 10 times, and the strength, speed, and explosive power have all increased countless times. Is this the increase in the last generation of Blood Clan by the Earl's blood essence? And it is diluted with water. He looked at the water cup again. Fang Qingyan had an extremely passionate feeling for it. He simply raised the cup, raised his head and drank it all at once. Deep feelings, swallow it in one gulp. It feels so good. He cried out in pain, but couldn't help laughing. This is what is called pain and happiness, right? A life energy that is several times larger than before came, and scored twice. Due to the first physical enhancement, Fang Qingyan easily absorbed all the life energy, and the changes brought about this time are even more obvious. The bloodline welcomed the baptism of the Earl's blood essence, and finally a qualitative change occurred. Swish, 0.2 slight sounds came. Fang Qingyan was stunned, and felt that his lips were a little strange. He raised his hand and touched 2 hard little protrusions on both sides of his lips, and was immediately overjoyed. Fangs! I have fangs! The bloodline of the last generation of Blood Clan has degenerated seriously, and it is impossible for them to have fangs. They have lost even the most basic characteristics of blood clans, so they are discriminated against everywhere and become the lowest existence. But now, Fang Qingyan, who was still the last generation of Blood Clan a second ago, has fangs. In order to confirm that he was not dreaming, he carefully opened the door and left the house. After getting up and going to the public bathroom, he found a mirror. In the mirror, there was a man who was with slender limbs, fair skin, and extremely handsome face. As we all know, Blood Clan bloodlines are all added with appearance. 90% of Blood Clans have appearance that cannot be lower than 80 points. And Fang Qingyan's appearance is outstanding even among Blood Clans full of handsome men and beautiful women. It is not without reason that he was chosen to serve a Lord Earl. Of course, none of this is important. What really makes Fang Qingyan happy is that two small white fangs have grown on both sides of his lips. Growing fangs means that I am no longer the last vampire at the bottom of the city of Lahmia. Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed with a gleam of brilliance. I am now a traditional vampire at the civilian level. I am eligible to buy real estate in the city, marry and have children, and can be protected by the laws of Lahmia. Just becoming a civilian can enjoy legal rights that are absolutely different from those of the untouchables, but this is not the end. For Fang Qingyan, it is just the beginning. Chapter 3. Count Castain's mansion is large, but there are few people. In addition to the Lord Earl, there are only a dozen servants and an old butler who live in the castle all year round. The old butler is named Albert. He rarely speaks on weekdays, but he is particularly concerned about the big and small things in the castle. It is said that Albert's grandfather was the butler of Count Castain. After his grandfather died of old age, his father took over the job. Later, his father died of old age, and Albert became the new butler. 3 generations of his grandfather followed the count. Fang Qingyan felt that if nothing unexpected happened, the job of the old butler could be inherited for another 10 generations. Because the life of the count-level vampires is really too long, Count Castain has lived for more than 800 years, but for him, this age is in his prime. The lifespan of civilian vampires will never exceed 300 years. After getting up early in the morning, it took Fang Qingyan 3 hours to clean up Noada's garden. The vampire is afraid of the sun, so he has to finish the work outside before the sun rises. After entering the villa, go up the stairs along the building, follow the corridor to the end and there is a large room. After opening the door, rows of bookshelves more than 2 meters high suddenly appeared in front of you, filled with a variety of books, a dazzling array of things to look at. It's comparable to a small library. Fang Qingyan's job is to clean the study, remove the dust, and put back the books that the Earl has read. It's not a lot of work. He quickly finished everything he had to do. But he did not leave the study immediately and returned to his cabin. System, I want to sign in the study room. Fang Qingyan called for the system in his heart. Ding! The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the secret technique of blood clan soul refining and blood refining. An extra book appeared out of thin air in the backpack. He took it out, opened it, and immediately became happy. The blood refining secret technique of the vampire clan is a meditation technique that condenses chi and blood and strengthens spiritual power. Although it cannot allow vampires to break through the limitations of life levels, it can effectively consolidate the current level and increase the intensity of mental power. The strength of the vampires lies not only in their tyrannical bodies. As a supernatural creature, superpowers are also a specialty of the vampires. For example, telepathy, mind reading, creating illusions, flying, emotional manipulation, weather manipulation. You can even predict the future. Superpowers are so powerful, but not every vampire can awaken them. This is closely related to mental strength. Even if you awaken your superpower, the level to which you can develop it depends on your mental strength. This should be a secret kept by the royal family and cannot be obtained by ordinary vampires. Fang Qingyan thought in his mind and put away the secret technique of refining the blood of the vampire clan properly and planned to study it carefully after returning to the house. Then he wandered around the study room. Not long after, his eyes lit up. He reached out and carefully pulled out a heavy book from the bookshelf. The Origin of Continent. This is the name of this book. It reminded Fang Qingyan of a documentary from his past life, from which he might be able to get a glimpse of the tip of the iceberg of this other world. After eagerly opening the title page, the first sentence made Fang Qingyan stare blankly. Gods control the world, and the changes and development of all things are God's will. Is this a theological reading? Read on patiently. The more I read, the more shocking it became. Fang Qingyan's 3 views were subverted again. This other world is completely different from the earth. The origin of species is not the so-called biological evolution, but is created by gods. For example, the founding deity of the vampire clan, Lilith. Lilith is the world's first vampire. Several epochs ago, she came to this world and created the 9 princes with her own divine blood. The 9 princes spread their branches and established the 9 major families of the blood clan, all of whom respected Lilith as their ancestor. In today's era, there are still 7 of the 9 major families, and they are no longer as close as one family. Many factions have emerged, and different factions fight to the death. But the vampires still believe in the god Lilith. No matter which place you go to where the vampires rule, everyone's mantra is, "Oh, here comes the ancestor of Lilith." What concerned Fang Qingyan the most was the continental map included in the book The Origin of the Continent. The kingdom of Nicala is located in the northwest of the eastern continent, and is only separated from the orc-inhabited kingdom of Azeroth by the Draenor Mountains. The war between the two countries has been burning for thousands of years. However, the city of Lahmia is the imperial capital of Nicala, and no matter how fierce the orcs are, they cannot reach the ancestral land of the Blood Clan. The Origin of the Continent records the origin and development history of many races. It even involves the human race. Fang Qingyan was fascinated by the book and yearned for the description in the book. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You actually know how to read. Suddenly a voice sounded in my ears. Fang Qingyan was startled. He quickly looked back and saw a middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous purple coat standing at the door of the study. He had a handsome face and elegant temperament. He was looking at Fang Qingyan with a slight smile in his eyes. "My Lord Count." Although Fang Qingyan was shocked, he reacted quickly. He quickly stood up and saluted. "I didn't know you were here. I was reading books in private. Please forgive me for my mistake. And don't tell him to make a fuss, this is Count Castain himself. Last night, just by absorbing a drop of blood essence from an Earl-level vampire, Fang Qingyan gained 100-fold increase in strength. One can imagine how terrifying this old vampire monster who has lived for more than 800 years is. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably be scared to death. Everyone has the right to learn knowledge. This is not a fault." Castain waved his hand and said with a slight smile, "But I am a little surprised that a little servant can read. My father once served an adult. The adult loved reading, so he learned some of it through his eyes and ears, and then taught it to me." Fang Qingyan explained in a correct manner. He wasn't lying. This was indeed the real experience of his predecessor, and he naturally inherited these things after traveling through time. "Well, it's good to like reading. Our vampire race is an elegant and noble race, which is different from the brutal, backward and dirty orcs in Azeroth." Castain nodded and said to Fang Qingyan in an elegant voice, "Your name is Edward, right? After you finish tidying up the study, I will allow you to read here for 30 minutes, but only if I don't use the study." Fang Qingyan was stunned for a moment, feeling quite surprised. During this period of time, he has personally experienced the cruelty of the strict hierarchy. In the eyes of the superiors, even civilians are nothing more than a group of ants. Anyone with a title can command as much as 2,500,000 to 80,000 yuan. I didn't expect Count Castain to be so easy to talk to, very approachable. "Thank you, Lord Earl, I won't disturb you reading." Fang Qingyan politely resigned and left. Chapter 4. The Blood Clan's secret technique of refining the soul is a meditation method to purify blood and warm up spiritual power. Fang Qingyan followed the instructions and meditated in the room. This process was very wonderful. He felt as if he was dreaming. In the dream, he was swimming in the sea of stars, feeling extremely comfortable both body and soul. However, he is well aware of everything in the outside world and has keen senses. After a few hours, he ended his meditation and opened his eyes. "I just feel refreshed, as if I have slept for 7 days in a row, so full and full of energy. My blood energy and mental strength have increased a little, but it's not obvious. At this rate, I don't know how long it will take to awaken my superpowers." Fang Qingyan frowned and thought, "I need a coffin of excellent quality." That the coffins used by vampires are certainly no ordinary coffins. Instead, the coffin is made of living creatures' bones, skins, and precious herbs, which has a miraculous effect on warming the blood and spiritual power of the vampires. Those old monsters who lie in coffins for 180 years are not there to sleep, but to cultivate their spiritual power. If he could get a good coffin, Fang Qingyan would be able to awaken his superpowers many times faster. Coffins are very expensive. I can't afford even the most ordinary coffin for raising corpses. The system's sign-in rewards are also random. It seems that I have to find a way to get some money. Thoughts arose in Fang Qingyan's mind. then put aside distracting thoughts and continue meditating. A week passed in a flash. During this period, Fang Qingyan insisted on signing in and received some system rewards every day. Among them, 3 drops of vampire blood were obtained again, 1 drop of Viscount blood, 1 drop of Baron blood, and 1 drop of Earl blood. With the assistance of the vampire soul refining and blood refining secret technique, his strength has reached a new level. The limit of the current level has been reached. It's just a little bit away from evolving your life level for the second time and stepping into the realm of Baron. The strength of the physical body has increased several times again, and the blood in the body is like a river roaring every day, full of vitality. Unfortunately, he still failed to awaken his superpower. In addition to 3 drops of blood essence, he also obtained 4 items. Viscount level Vampire Fangs X2, Baron level Vampire Claw X1. Royal Secret Combat Techniques, 3 of them are materials, and the last one is a very powerful physical combat skill. Fang Qingyan practices physical skills alone in his room every night. Although the space is small, he can perform well with diligent study and practice. He didn't dare to take it out to practice. After all, it was a secret of the royal family. If someone caught him, he wouldn't be able to explain it. Through this period of reading and the study, Fang Qingyan also learned more knowledge about the world, including the form of fighting between vampires. Most of the time when blood clans fight, they all rely on physical combat to work miracles with great strength. A fist-to-fist contest, a game of strength and skill, a battle where superpowers are used as a high-end game. Very few civilians have awakened superpowers, except for a few exceptions who are extremely talented in spiritual power. Fang Qingyan felt that he had to end his retreat temporarily. It just so happened that today the old butler Albert informed everyone that they could take a day off. He was going to go out, exchange the 3 materials in his hand for money, and then buy himself a better coffin. Night fell, and the moon was high. It was the most active time for the blood clan again. Fang Qingyan wrapped himself in a tight black robe, advanced half a month's salary to the old housekeeper Albert, and then went out of the big iron gate and left Castain Castle. The castle is located outside the city of Lahmia, and the area within 100 miles is all the fiefdom of Count Castain. There are several prosperous towns in the fiefdom, but the goods that Fang Qingyan wants to sell can only be eaten in the imperial capital, and small places cannot sell them. After calling a carriage and paying 10 copper coins, the driver took Fang Qingyan and drove to the city of Lahmia. All the way, Fang Qingyan looked at the driver inconspicuously. This is the first human he has met since he crossed into this world. In fact, this is not uncommon. Although Nicara is a vampire kingdom, many humans live there, or rather, many humans are raised there. These people are blood food raised by the vampires. Although vampires are brutal by nature, they are extremely picky about food and like to drink fresh human blood. Most of these humans were abducted and could not escape, so they had to live in this place. They need to pay taxes to the kingdom of Nicara regularly, that is, provide blood. Those who evade taxes will be eaten. In fact, strictly speaking, the status of these blood food is higher than that of the pariahs like the last generation of vampires. At least the kingdom has issued relevant policies and bills, strictly prohibiting any vampires from privately attacking humans, and vampires who steal food and drink will die miserably. Most of the time, the humans in Nicara are like domestic hens. As long as they work hard and lay eggs, they can still live a decent life, but if you occasionally encounter some chicken thieves, you will be very unlucky. Fang Qingyan did not have much conversation with his fellow tribesmen in the previous life. Many sighs and feelings had already been buried deep in his heart. After an hour's drive, the carriage arrived at the city of Lahmia. After entering the city, it stopped at the side of a street. Fang Qingyan got off the car and left along a small path. The city of Lahmia at night is the most prosperous time of the entire kingdom. Bars, casinos, amusement parks, arenas, streetwalkers. It's a pity that such prosperity does not belong to a poor guy like him. Soon, Fang Qingyan arrived at his destination, the black market. There are many adventurers and merchants from all over the world in Lahmia. Many things that cannot be seen in the light have to be traded privately. Over time, the existence of the black market has emerged. Although it is a black market, it is actually tacitly approved by the people above. People come and go at the entrance, and there is no sign of any taboo at all. It was the old housekeeper Albert who told Fang Qingyan about the existence of such a place. After entering, the view suddenly opened up. The whole street was lined with shops one after another, and all kinds of stalls were set up from the beginning to the end of the street. After observing for a while, Fang Qingyan walked into a trading house that looked quite impressive. "Sir, are you buying something or selling goods?" A polite man came forward, revealing two fangs in his smile. "Both." Fang Qingyan did not hesitate and took something out of his arms. "There are two more, and I need to buy a coffin." "Do we need to talk here while standing?" The man's eyes lit up immediately, and he recognized that this was the claw of the Baron blood clan, the top material for refining magic weapons. And from what he said, it seems that there are even top-level ones. Big business is coming. "Dear guest, please follow me to the VIP seat, we will discuss slowly. P.S. The performance of the new book on the first day is very important. If there are readers who like vampires, please support it. Flowers, collections, evaluation tickets, begging." Chapter 5. A quarter of an hour later, Fang Qingyan walked out of the trading shop. "Mr. Edward, welcome next time." Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The vampire's face was full of bright smiles, and he waved goodbye to him enthusiastically. "I will have someone make the coffin you ordered overnight and deliver it to your house before 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon." Fang Qingyan left without looking back, and soon disappeared from the man's sight. The smile on the vampire's face slowly disappeared, and he looked thoughtfully at the direction where Fang Qingyan left, muttering to himself. "Count Castain's people. Well, for the sake of the Count, I'll let you go." In the black market, it is not uncommon for black to eat black. Just now, Fang Qingyan took out 3 pieces of body materials of noble blood at once, which means that it is very likely that 3 nobles were killed. But the man in the trading house didn't ask any more questions and bought them directly, without any fear of getting into trouble. It can be seen that this guy is also a ruthless person with a background. Walking on the street, Fang Qingyan touched the bulging money bag on his waist, and he couldn't help but smile. A baron's claw and 2 viscount's fangs were sold at a high price of 30 gold coins. With his current salary of 3 silver coins per month as a servant in the castle, he would have to work hard for 100 years to earn so much money. This shows how high the value of high-level vampires is. Fang Qingyan spent a huge sum of 2 gold coins to tailor a coffin for himself and asked them to deliver it directly to Castain Castle. He was not afraid of letting the old steward know about this. After all, corpse coffins are very common in the ancestral land. For vampires, they are just beds for sleeping. Many civilian-level vampires have also ordered them at home, which is not uncommon. Anyway, they look similar in appearance. Unless you lie in it to experience it, you don't know whether it is a wooden bed worth 2 silver coins or a Simmons mattress worth 2 gold coins. This place is full of good and bad people. If you stay for a long time, you may be targeted by others. It's better to leave quickly. Thinking of this in his heart, Fang Qingyan quickened his pace and left the black market in a short time. The purpose of his trip has been achieved. With the artifact of the corpse-raising coffin and the help of the secret art of blood clan soul-raising and blood refining, Fang Qingyan is confident that he can awaken his superpowers within 3 days and break through to the Baron rank. He is not interested in the prosperity of the never-sleeping city of Lahmia. For him, the real scenery is the strength of strength, and indulging in wine and women will only make people degenerate. In such a dangerous world, people who lose self-discipline are equivalent to losing their lives. Rejecting the enthusiastic invitation of the streetwalker, Fang Qingyan stopped a carriage at the street corner. "Take me to Castenberg." The coachman whipped the horse and the carriage went away with a gurgle. Almost at the same time, several figures appeared, their eyes locked on the carriage where Fang Qingyan was. "Are you seeing things?" The man in the black robe asked hoarsely. "No mistake. I noticed this guy when he entered the trading house. When he came out, the boss of the trading house was very enthusiastic about him. And his waist was obviously bulging. He must be a fat sheep." The person who spoke had a strange voice, his eyes glowed red, and he licked his fangs bloodthirstily. "Then I'll take him tonight. He's just a last-generation vampire. I'll kill him like a chicken." "What about the coachman?" "Killing the last-generation vampire is fine, but it's illegal to touch humans." Humans are taxpayers stipulated in the law. Pay a shit tax. It's not for me. It's just livestock raised by the nobles. We'll kill them together later and eat them up. Who will know it was us who did it? Gurgle gurgle. The carriage left the city gate and drove on the road in the wild. Fang Qingyan leaned on the leather cushion and closed his eyes in the carriage. In fact, he was meditating, and had already made the practice of Blood Clan's secret art of nourishing qi and refining blood a subconscious habit. 10 minutes later, he seemed to have a premonition of something, and his eyes suddenly opened and closed. Someone is following me. Fang Qingyan's face turned slightly ugly. His current mental power is no longer what it used to be. Although his life level has not yet broken through the Baron, his mental power is no weaker than that of an ordinary Baron. At this moment, he vaguely felt that he was being followed, but he was not particularly sure of his premonition. What if it was just on the way? After thinking for a few seconds, Fang Qingyan pulled open the curtain of the carriage with the idea of being safe for 1,000 years, and said to the driver, "Hello, I have something to trouble you." "What do you want, sir?" "Please go ahead." The human driver was very reserved and answered with his lips stammering. He was extremely obedient and well-behaved, and it was obvious that he had a deep fear of the Blood Clan. "Please take a detour and go to a remote area with few people. I can pay you 3 more copper coins." Fang Qingyan politely made his request. Okay. Although the human coachman was worried that the vampire was plotting against his body, why would he order him to go to the wilderness? But he was worried that if he refused, he would be arraigned now, so he had to do it. Fang Qingyan didn't care about the fantasies of being destroyed that flashed in the coachman's mind. He held his breath and calmed his mind completely, then mobilized his mental power and released his perception. Sure enough, there was indeed someone following him, and deliberately kept a certain distance. Even if the carriage left the road and went to the wilderness, it still followed. Fang Qingyan opened his eyes, and his eyes were already cold. I am already low-key enough. From entering the black market to coming out, it took no more than 15 minutes, and there were no extraneous matters, but even so, he was still being targeted. Is it the guy from the trading house who wants to take advantage of others? Fang Qingyan's anger rose in his heart. No matter who dares to catch my attention, he must be prepared to receive a lesson. He has always been wearing the uniform that symbolizes the last generation of vampires, so someone who can target someone as weak as him is probably not a noble-level vampire with a title. When a noble wants to kill a pariah, there is no need to follow him out of the city in such a wretched manner. So what if someone is killed casually on the street? Therefore, Fang Qingyan was not panicked. "Pull over," he said to the coachman in a calm voice. When the car stopped, he got out and said to the driver, "Wait for me here. I'll go solve some minor problems and I'll be back soon." The group of people following behind were in a daze. The carriage stopped. "What's going on?" Some people are puzzled. "Let's go up and have a look," someone said in a deep voice. They drove forward and leaned towards the carriage in front. Boom! Suddenly, a huge force fell from the sky, and a terrifying strong wind roared in, crushing down like an overwhelming force. The carriage of the followers was torn apart in an instant, and 4 people fell out in disgrace. They all looked up angrily, and saw a handsome young man in front of them with his hands folded on his chest, looking at them and others indifferently. Stalking others is not the behavior of a gentleman. Your parents should have taught you this. There was a hint of coldness in Fang Qingyan's voice. Chapter 6. Aren't you a pariah? One of the vampire's pupils shrank violently and looked at Fang Qingyan in surprise. The other 3 were also very surprised. Moreover, the physical strength that Fang Qingyan showed just now is not something that ordinary traditional vampires can possess. Fang Qingyan frowned and cursed. "You are the untouchable, and your whole family is an untouchable." That what he hates most is this kind of class discrimination. Humph. So what if you are a traditional vampire? Just hand over the money and we can let you die quickly. The 4 vampires smiled ferociously and surrounded Fang Qingyan. Fang Qingyan was unmoved and looked at them coldly. "The robbery is on my head, just because of you guys. Stop talking nonsense and kill him." 4 vampires swarmed forward, murderous. Buzz. Fang Qingyan stopped writing ink. He clenched his fists, and the energy and blood all over his body began to boil. His pupils suddenly turned as red as blood, which was a symbol of the vampire entering a fighting state. His body suddenly rushed out, galloping like a tiger. The vampire at the front bore the brunt of the attack. He felt his eyes blur as a figure appeared beside him, and then a fist wrapped in blood-colored aura came into view. Skull-crushing jab, bang. With a loud explosion, the vampire's head exploded instantly like a watermelon being hit by a hammer, just exploded. The brains mixed with blood were scattered in all directions, and the skull was directly opened. Bang! The headless corpse shook and fell to the ground. When the three vampires saw this, they were immediately frightened and their livers and gallbladders were about to burst. This is a royal combat skill. You are actually from the royal family. How can a commoner learn the royal combat skills? Royal combat skills can stimulate the power of Qi and blood in the blood clan's body. The blood-colored Qi flame released from Fang Qingyan's fist just now is a symbol. They immediately wanted to retreat, although civilian vampires are often aggressive and fight each other, and it is not uncommon to fight each other, they do not have the opportunity to come into contact with any advanced physical combat skills. Fang Qingyan's bloodline has reached the peak of the traditional blood clan. With the royal family's combat skills at his side, it will not be easy to kill a few of them. Fang Qingyan was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that Fang's combat skills would be recognized as soon as he made a move. It seems that this set of royal secret combat skills is very famous in Lahmia city. You know too much, which gives me even more reason to kill you. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed with a ruthless look. He kicked the ground with both feet, and the whole person flew out immediately, breaking the sound barrier in an instant, accompanied by red blood light, killing the enemy. Death neck, crack. A vampire's head was twisted 820 degrees clockwise by Fang Qingyan in an instant, his chin drooped on his back, his neck twisted into a knot, and he died on the spot. Run! The remaining two vampires wanted to escape, but how could Fang Qingyan give them this opportunity? He flew up and kicked a whip kick, like a giant axe slashing across, and with a swish sound, he kicked one of them in the waist, and the colorful intestines flowed all over the ground, and the internal organs were accompanied by blood. Then he rushed forward, raised his arm and a violent elbow hit the last person's chest. Bang bang! Two bodies fell to the ground. Fang Qingyan looked calm, squatted down and wiped the blood on his hands on the clothes of the corpse, then stood up and walked away. It is a serious crime for untouchables to kill civilians, but all the blood tonight will be washed away when the sun rises tomorrow. This is his first time to kill someone, the first time he saw such a bloody, violent and disgusting scene. It is strange that he did not feel disgusted at all, but instead felt a little excited. Maybe it is because the bloodthirsty and violent factors hidden in the blood clan cells are playing a role. This battle is not exciting at all, it is completely a one-sided crushing, a ruthless beating of strength, speed, and skills. Fang Qingyan will not be proud and complacent because he has dealt with a few minions. Let's go. Fang Qingyan returned to the carriage and said to the driver. The driver smelled the strong smell of blood on him and couldn't help shivering. 10 minutes later, the carriage stopped in front of Castain Castle. Fang Qingyan got off the car, entered the castle, and returned to his hut. The next day, his coffin was delivered. This is a very beautifully made corpse-raising coffin, with purple patterns on the edge. There is a lot of space inside, and it won't feel crowded even if you sleep with someone in your arms. The velvet silk cloth has a good texture and is very elastic. Fang Qingyan lay in it for a minute and felt very comfortable. The 2 gold coins were worth it. Bang! The coffin lid was closed tightly. The sealing is very good. System, I want to sign in the coffin. He suddenly had an idea. Will it be effective if he signs in the corpse-raising coffin for the first time? Ding! Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for winning the reward, Marquis Essence Blood X1. The system sounded. Fang Qingyan immediately took a breath of cold air. Marquis level Essence Blood. The life level of the Marquis blood clan is 1 level higher than that of Count Castain. In other words, this is something that even the Count dreams of. When the bloodline is upgraded to the peak of the Earl, taking a drop of the marquee blood essence is likely to directly break through the life level. This is going to be a success. Fang Qingyan climbed out of the coffin excitedly. He took out a drop of marquee level blood essence, diluted it with water as before, and drank it with his head raised. The pain of being burned by the scorching sun made Fang Qingyan frown, but the next moment, the extremely violent life energy instantly exploded in his body. How pure is this energy? It wrapped his blood and qi in an extremely domineering manner, and attacked the shackles of the barren realm. Boom! There was a roar from the eardrum. Fang Qingyan broke through the life level without any hindrance. His physical body was strengthened dozens of times, and his mental power seemed to have found an outlet, expanding uncontrollably. The two fangs on his lips were more dazzling and grew a few inches longer. Barren. He broke through to the barren realm. But this is not the end. Fang Qingyan's eyes sparkled, and he simply drank the remaining blood in the cup in one gulp. Instantly, it seemed as if a nuclear explosion occurred in his body. The terrifying life energy was brewing a new round of explosion. Boom boom boom, evolution. Evolution. Fang Qingyan's muscles and bones made a series of crackling sounds. Finally, he shuddered. Viscount. He broke through to the Viscount realm. After a long time, Fang Qingyan calmed down, like a red-hot boiler, gradually cooling down. He lowered his head to look at his body, savoring this indescribable feeling of power. He didn't know how powerful his body was now, and he felt that he could demolish this Castain castle with his bare hands. The most obvious feeling was the change in mental power. If Fang Qingyan's previous mental power was a stream, then his current mental power was a river roaring day and night. The whole world was different in his eyes, clearer, more sensitive, and more agile. At the same time, Fang Qingyan felt as if he had gained a new ability. Superpower, that he muttered to himself, and suddenly felt something in his heart. His body gradually floated in the air, suspended in the air, and flew up until his head touched the ceiling. There was no wind at all, but there was no doubt that Fang Qingyan finally awakened his first superpower, flying. P.S. Does anyone read this book? I'm asking for flowers, comments, votes and collections. If you like it, please support me. Thank you. Chapter 7. Today is the most proud day for Fang Qingyan in this period of time. From now on, I can truly protect myself. Fang Qingyan clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with brilliance, feeling the endless and tyrannical power in his body and enjoying the wonderful feeling of flying in the air. He knew that he was no longer a soft persimmon that could be manipulated by others. But new problems have also come. Fang Qingyan remembered something and frowned. There are hundreds of thousands of vampires in the kingdom of Nikala, but 90% of them are traditional vampires, and the last generation of vampires, commoners and untouchables, account for the vast majority. The number of nobles is actually not large. Due to the characteristics of the vampire's advancement, the birth of every noble must be registered. Only nobles can create nobles. This is a key point. A viscount suddenly appeared out of thin air, and you can't explain clearly where the blood essence you used for advancement came from. It will bring a lot of trouble. Normally, the advancement of the blood clan is the precious blood essence bestowed by the adults, and only those who are rewarded have the opportunity to become nobles, but nothing is absolute. There are also some black households who get the blood essence of high-level blood clans from unconventional channels and thus advance. This behavior is absolutely prohibited in the city of Lahmia. Once discovered, the blood clan will be severely executed. Fang Qingyan is a black household. Although he has a clear conscience and the blood essence he uses is given by the system, no one will believe it if he tells it out, so he still has to hide his edge and continue to be a pariah. Fortunately, Fang Qingyan does not yearn for the so-called noble life, and his only belief is to become stronger. Staying in Castain Castle and practicing quietly is also a good choice. Be a low-key person. No, a vampire. After thinking for a moment, Fang Qingyan retracted his distracting thoughts. His body slowly landed on the ground and put away all his mental power. Then he took a deep breath. Gradually, the boiling blood in the body calmed down, and the violent power became dormant. The fangs on both sides of the lips shrank back with a hiss. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The whole person's aura became ordinary and ordinary. Before he was truly invincible, Fang Qingyan didn't want to be disturbed by anyone. He just wants to grow stronger quietly. The next day, Fang Qingyan ended his meditation and climbed out of the coffin. After briefly washing up, he left the house. The sun outside is very bright. Fang Qingyan, who was about to go out to clean the garden, stopped, and his expression became a little solemn. He stared at the sunlight 1 meter in front of him, and some thought suddenly came to his mind. Daytime is the time when there are the fewest people in the entire city of Lahmia, because sunlight is extremely lethal to vampires. Vampires are creatures with Yin attributes. On a moonlit night, the combat power of a vampire bathed in moonlight can increase several times. But sunlight is extremely poisonous. Even a peak-level vampire at the prince level will be wiped out once exposed to direct sunlight. So what if you become stronger? There is still a fatal weakness. Legend has it that the prince-level vampires are known as immortal, eternal life, and number one among the gods, but they become a joke when the sun shines on them. Fang Qingyan muttered to himself, I wonder if the system can do anything about it. He reached for the black robe, wrapped it tightly around his body, and then stepped out. The air is full of the unpleasant smell of sunshine. Not only do I hate it, I also fear it. This made Fang Qingyan a little crazy. System, please sign in at the garden. That he took a deep breath and couldn't help but add, you should know what I want, right? Ding! The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the secret technique of transformation of the day-traveling blood race. A thin book appeared, glowing with golden light. Then the golden light came into my mind. Fang Qingyan immediately had a lot more memories. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. The secret technique of transforming sun-type vampires allows vampires to transform their extremely Yin physique into Yin-Yang harmonious attributes after practicing. This means that I will no longer be afraid of the sun. Fang Qingyan read a sentence in his previous life. All things bear Yin and embrace Yang, and the energy is in harmony. Only the unity of Yin and Yang can we reach the true peak. The extreme Yin and Yang are both on the wrong track. This secret technique requires me to convert half of the negative energy and blood in my body into positive energy. The process is very time-consuming. Fang Qingyan decided to dedicate part of his meditation time every day to practice the secret technique of transformation of sun-type vampires. After cleaning up the garden, he went to the study as usual and found that it was still as tidy as yesterday, and there was no need to clean it at all. Count Castain has not come to the study for several days. This is actually cheaper for Fang Qingyan. The entire Nuoda study room is a treasure trove for him to supplement his knowledge. What he was reading today was the Chronicle of the Thousand-Year War between Beasts and Ghosts. It's about the history of the war between the nations of Azeroth on the other side of the Draenor Mountains and Nikala. The war between the orcs and the vampires has raged for decades. The Draenor Mountains were sometimes snatched away by the orcs, and sometimes snatched back by the vampires. The Thousand-Year War has continued without a winner. It can be said that we have met our opponents. The realm of the vampire clan is divided into 6 levels: Baron, Viscount, Earl, Marquis, Duke, and Prince. The combat power of traditional vampires and last-generation vampires is too low, so they are not counted. Among them, Baron and Viscount are low-end combat powers. The Earl Marquis is the real mainstay. As for the Duke, he is a strategic-level nuclear weapon that can destroy an entire city with a snap of his finger. Prince. There hasn't been a prince-level vampire in Nikala for thousands of years. Rumor has it that the prince is the life level closest to the gods. There are also 6 realms for the orcs in Azeroth: Spirit Beast, Brave Beast, War Beast, General Beast, Beast King, Beast King. Likewise, the Beast King has been defeated long ago. In recent years, the kingdom of Azeroth is slightly more powerful than Nikala. The vampires suffered several setbacks on the battlefield. I heard that the nobles of Lahmia City are preparing to go to the palace deep in the ancestral land, lift the coffin of the Duke, and ask the Duke to come out and deal with the savage orcs. But these have nothing to do with Fang Qingyan. In the blink of an eye, 3 months have passed. This day, Castle Castain suddenly shook inexplicably, like an earthquake. Old butler Albert was alerted and thought he was being attacked. But the strange thing is that the abnormal movement disappeared after just 1 breath, and everything returned to calm, as if nothing happened. Helpless, Albert could only tell the guards to be more vigilant, and then dismissed everyone. In the room, a coffin with purple patterns was floating in the air, its whole body exuding red and gold light. The breath is sometimes cold, like falling into an ice cellar. sometimes it is extremely hot, like a stove. There was a crisp click, and a gap opened in the coffin. Then it exploded with a bang, sawdust flying, and the terrifying impact seemed to lift the roof off. A slender arm stretched out, disintegrating the leak's strength with a single wave. Fang Qingyan's tall and perfect figure emerged. His appearance at this moment is shocking. The left eye pupil has a strange blue crescent moon. The right eye pupil is a domineering golden sun. The two auras of extreme yin and extreme yang converge in one body, but it does not seem contradictory at all, but harmonious and natural. He has already mastered the secret art of transformation of daywalking vampires. He has become the world's first vampire that is not afraid of sunlight. At the same time, in these 3 months, Fang Qingyan has awakened 2 new superpowers again. Chapter 8. Before this, Fang Qingyan had already awakened the superpower of flying. Now he has obtained 2 more. One is pain control, which can make the enemy feel pain beyond the limit of endurance, a superpower that directly acts on the brain senses. The other is imprisonment gaze, an ability exerted through the eyes, relying on powerful mental power to imprison the enemy's body and make it unable to move. The effect of all offensive superpowers depends on the strength of mental power. The stronger the mental power, the greater the power it exerts. If other vampires knew that Fang Qingyan had awakened 3 superpowers when he was at the Viscount level, they would probably be envious. 3 months of dedicated practice. Fang Qingyan's bloodline has also been upgraded from just entering the Viscount to the peak of the Viscount. However, I've been unlucky recently. I haven't received any blood essence after signing in for a long time. He gradually frowned. It seems that I can't always sign in at this place. I have to change to some special places to sign in to get rich rewards. Today, he completed his work as usual. When he walked out of the study, he ran into the old housekeeper Albert. Go to the living room when you're done. I just have something to tell you. Old housekeeper Albert said. Fang Qingyan was a little surprised, but he didn't ask much, and nodded. Okay. I have to notify other people. See you later. Got it. Watching Albert's figure disappear at the stairs, Fang Qingyan's eyes flickered slightly. Speaking of which, I haven't seen Count Castain appear for more than a month, although it is common for vampires to sleep in coffins for several years, but Fang Qingyan felt that this incident seemed unusual. The castle living room, in addition to a dozen servants and attendants, there were also several guards. Everyone was called together. Everyone is here, so I won't waste any more time. Let's get started. Albert looked around at everyone and coughed. The Earl will not be back for a long time, and I need to arrange some things for you in advance. As soon as these words came out, everyone was in an uproar. The Earl is not coming back. So the Earl has not been in the castle during this period? Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Butler Albert, where have you been? When will you be back? Everyone be quiet. Albert's voice rose 8 points, and everyone immediately fell silent. Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed, and he had a guess in his mind. Lord Earl, he. Albert paused, and then said quietly, he went to the Delano Mountains. The scene suddenly fell into deathly silence. Everyone understood what the old housekeeper meant. Count Castain goes to war. Fang Qingyan thought that indeed, the war between Azeroth and Nicola had reached a fever pitch. After practicing, he would pay attention to the war progress between the two countries when he had nothing to do. The orcs and the vampires fought fiercely. The Draenor Mountains have been soaked in the blood of generations of vampires and orcs for thousands of years. Obviously, the front line is now tight and lacks combat power. Not only Count Castain, but also many nobles were summoned and went to the battlefield. After all, nobles enjoy the support of the kingdom, the enviable fiefdoms, wealth, beauty, servants, and blood food. When the country is in crisis, it's time for them to work hard, even if the royal family does not issue a summons. Order. At this time, the nobles will not be afraid of death. After all, once the country is destroyed, all the power and status enjoyed by the nobles will be wiped out. It took a long time for everyone to recover from the shocking news. Everyone is worried, fearing that Count Castain would die in battle. Once there is no protection from the Earl, they, commoners and untouchables, will return to their previous lives of being bullied. Oh my Ancestor Lilith, please bless the Earl for his safe return. Some people couldn't help but clasp their hands in prayer. Well, there is no need for you to worry about Lord Count. This is not the first time that Lord has been on the battlefield. Albert waved his hand impatiently and said, since my grandfather was the steward of this castle, Count Castain has often gone to the front line to fight, and every time he returns in triumph, his fiefdom will be doubled in size every time he returns. This time will be no exception. Don't be dejected. Cheer up. Having said that, but who is 100% confident that they will come back alive? After all, going to the battlefield means fighting orcs, and fighting means there is a chance of death. Fang Qingyan's eyes were very calm, although he had a good impression of Count Castain and felt that he was gentle to his servants, but that was all. If Count Castain died in battle, Fang Qingyan would not be sad. The people in the hall were worried and uneasy because they were afraid that no one would protect them after the Count's death. However, Fang Qingyan did not need asylum. Back to the subject, when the Earl left, he took away the 800 personal guards on the fief. Albert coughed and glanced at everyone. In the past, the guards went to the fiefdom to collect taxes from door to door, but now there are not enough manpower, so from today on, you no longer need to do any work in the castle. Go and help collect taxes. Tax. Collect taxes. Fang Qingyan was stunned for a moment. The human carriage driver suddenly came to mind. That means going to a human to draw blood, right? Wouldn't it be necessary to travel to various small towns and villages? Fang Qingyan was initially reluctant. After all, going out to collect taxes meant that you couldn't quietly stay in the castle to practice, but when I thought about it, his bloodline had now reached the peak of Viscount, and he would never be able to break through even though he was in seclusion. Might as well go out for a walk. By the way, sign in at a different place and see if you can get a drop of blood for a breakthrough. That's fine, let's go and deal with the same people from the previous life. The corners of Qingyan's mouth curled up slightly, but in the eyes of vampires, humans are just pieces of bread, that is, food. P.S. The results of the book are a bit dismal. If anyone is watching, vote for a free flower review to support Xiaopuji. Kneel down and thank you. Chapter 9. Fang Qingyan was assigned a list. There is an address written on it, the town of Bon. Besides, there are also densely packed names, totaling more than 700 people. They are all the targets of his trip. These are all so-called taxpayers on the list. There is a tax standard posted at the bottom, 1000 ml for adult males, adult women 800 ml, 0.400 ml for minor males, 0.300 ml for minor females. Those over 60 years old should take 500 ml. Those under 5 years old or over 80 years old are not allowed to smoke. After reading the blood drawing standards, even Fang Qingyan couldn't help but frown. This is too cruel. It just drives people to death. Human blood volume accounts for 7% to 8% of body weight. In other words, a 60-kilogram healthy adult has a total blood volume of only 4,800 milliliters. Loss of more than 1,000 milliliters of blood can be life-threatening. The key is that everyone's physique is different. This standard is too general. If you encounter a weak person, you may be beaten to death. And even the elderly and children are not spared, which is too cruel. After these humans have their blood drawn, they still have to continue working and earning money to live. You can imagine how miserable they are. Fang Qingyan used to think that the situation of the humans in Nicara was okay. After all, they were protected by the law, but now it seems that he was too naive. Among the blood clans in the whole country, only Fang Qingyan felt cruel. Others would not have such a mentality. To put it bluntly, the humans in Nicara are just livestock and poultry raised by the blood clans, just like humans enjoying the delicious chicken, duck and beef. It seems that they will not feel sorry for it, right? However, Fang Qingyan's heart is very conflicted, because he still retains his precious humanity. Ahem, have you got the list? Old housekeeper Albert looked around and shouted, listen carefully, when collecting taxes, you must strictly follow the standards set by the kingdom, and you cannot collect more or less. If someone dies because of drawing too much blood, you will be punished. Hand in the blood food tomorrow afternoon. If the total amount is not enough, you can use your heads to make up for it. Then, if we collect taxes according to the standards, but still draw people to death, Fang Qingyan suddenly raised his head, looked at the old housekeeper calmly, and asked. Albert looked at him strangely. If they die, they die. It's not your responsibility. What qualifications do we humans have to live in our blood clan's ancestral land? Only healthy and strong humans can provide us with long-term and stable blood supply. The others also looked at Fang Qingyan strangely. Fang Qingyan suddenly fell silent. After explaining everything that needed to be explained, old housekeeper Albert set off with the tax collection team of Castenberg. At this moment, the sun sets and night will soon fall. Nighttime is when the blood clan is most energetic. Fang Qingyan took a carriage to the town where he was responsible for collecting taxes, Bon Town. This is a very beautiful town with extremely beautiful scenery. The gorgeous sunset casts a golden glow, and the grass, trees, and houses are particularly beautiful in the hazy light and shadow. It's a pity that the blood clan can't appreciate such scenery. The only beautiful scenery in the hearts of the blood clan is the dark night and the big moon hanging in the sky. After Fang Qingyan parted ways with the others, he walked alone in the countryside under the sunset. After feeling that there was no one around, he lifted the heavy hood. The warm sunlight shone on his face, and then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, bathed in the comfortable golden glow. This is the first time that Fang Qingyan feels like he lives like a human being after being reborn as a vampire. Night falls. Dong dong dong. Open the door, it's time to pay taxes. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Soon, the door opened, revealing a middle-aged man's face with a fearful expression. Sir, please come in. Fang Qingyan entered the room, looked around, and turned to ask him, where are your wife and daughter? I'll call them out right away. Not long after, a woman came out of the room holding a 4 or 5-year-old girl. The woman was okay, but the little girl huddled up very timidly and did not dare to look at Fang Qingyan. Ahem, let's start drawing blood. I still have a lot of work to do. Fang Qingyan skillfully took out the syringe and blood bag for drawing blood from the toolbox. You draw 1,000 milliliters, your wife 800, and your daughter 300. Do you understand the rules? That when the middle-aged man heard this, his expression changed slightly, and he quickly said flatteringly, Sir, my daughter is still young, she won't smoke, right? I'm already 5 years old, so I have to smoke. Fang Qingyan said expressionlessly. As soon as these words came out, both the couple looked desperate, and the little girl even wanted to cry, looking so pitiful, but he didn't dare to resist the vampire clan at all, and could only hope that his young daughter could survive. But then, I heard this adult suddenly change his words. But, if you can pay the tax on your daughter's behalf, that's fine. You and your wife can each pay an extra 150 yuan, and your daughter will be exempted. The family burst into tears of joy. I know I met a kind-hearted vampire. After coming out, he put the 3 blood bags on the carriage and continued to the next house. This time it was a scrawny old man. Fang Qingyan released the water and only pumped him 100 milliliters. Then I picked a few very strong young men and smoked some more to make up for it. I was busy until 4 o'clock in the morning, and only less than 1/3 of the work was completed. The good news is, he didn't beat anyone to death. Legend has it that the name vampire originated from human beings' fear of vampires. After seeing the fearful expressions on those people's faces today, Fang Qingyan was certain that this legend was true. We arrived at another house. Fang Qingyan knocked on the door several times, but no one opened it. Is this an attempt to evade taxes? He frowned and could clearly feel the energy and blood fluctuations of the 2 people in the room. Let's open the door. You should be very clear about the consequences of tax evasion, right? After the scare, the door finally opened. What caught his eye was a middle-aged woman with a pale and bloodless complexion. Her eyes were full of fear, and she whispered to the other party, Qingyan, Sir, please come in. Fang Qingyan twisted his eyebrows. After entering the house, he was a little surprised, because there was another girl in the house, and she was very beautiful, but she was also depressed and low in energy. Fang Qingyan quickly looked away, turned to look at the woman, and asked in a deep voice, What's going on? Who drew the blood of you mother and daughter? That the vital signs of the 2 people were very abnormal. They were obviously healthy, but they were lacking in energy and blood. Obviously someone got there first, and a lot of blood was drawn from the mother and daughter. This is the fiefdom of Count Castain, and Fang Qingyan is solely responsible for blood collection in the town of Bonn. But someone has collected blood from humans without his consent, grabbing food to eat. Is this it? If Fang Qingyan ignored and drew blood again, mother and daughter would definitely be dead, but if you don't draw it, the blood food that needs to be handed over will not meet the requirements, so he must cross-examine this matter carefully. P.S. Xiaopuji asks for support. Dear readers, please vote for Free Flower Evaluation, Chapter 10. Be honest, who has been here before me? Faced with Fang Qingyan's cross-examination, mother and daughter were shaking like chaff and dared not speak. It was obvious that someone had threatened him. If he dared to make a report, he would be retaliated against. You should know very well that I will definitely draw blood. With your current physical condition, you will die if I draw you again. Fang Qingyan stared at the two of them and said in a calm voice, "Tell me the truth and I can find a way for you. I know that you are being threatened and are afraid of retaliation, but if you don't tell me, you will die now." Tears welled up, the psychological defenses of mother and daughter were finally broken. Wu, I said, don't bully my mother. The girl rushed over and grabbed Fang Qingyan's sleeve, with tears streaming down her pretty face and her voice choked with sobs. They just left. Fang Qingyan showed a gentle smile, patted the back of her hand comfortingly, and asked softly, "Don't cry, tell me, who are they?" The girl's crying gradually stopped, she wiped her tears and whispered, "They are the men of Marquis Brook. They forced the villagers to donate blood, and those who resist will be beaten. And they are not allowed to say anything, once they say it yes, they will eat you. My mother and I managed to survive. The most pitiful thing was the frail grandparents in the town. Many of them failed to survive and died." As she spoke, the girl burst into tears again. What a bunch of robbers. Unprincipled robbery. Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed fiercely. Of course he had heard of the reputation of Margrave Brook. The famous Brook clan among the Blood clan is the hereditary royal family of Lahmia city. There are also upper and lower blood nobles in Nikala. One is ordinary nobles, who are self-made like Count Castain. There are also 7 major clans that have been inherited from several eras ago and are called the royal clan. The Brook family is one of them. Speaking of which, Count Castain was promoted by Marquis Brook. In other words, Fang Qingyan's boss is the younger brother of the Brook clan. He was eaten by the big brother. How to deal with this matter? Should we turn a blind eye and pretend not to see it, or stop these guys who are messing around? Fang Qingyan's eyes flashed with hesitation, but soon, the tears of the mother and daughter hit the soft corner of his heart. The human race has been bullied badly enough, but facing these hooligans of the Brook family, people have to give up their dignity and sacrifice their lives. This kind of thing has touched Fang Qingyan's bottom line. The education he received in his previous life did not allow him to make any concessions. Take good care of yourself. No one will come to draw your blood this month. Fang Qingyan stood up and said lightly to the mother and daughter, then he turned around and walked out of the house in the astonished eyes of the two. You shit on my head, and you asked me for toilet paper after you finished. Fang Qingyan had a ferocious expression, and a bloodthirsty grin appeared at the corner of his mouth. Very good. I've been low-key for so long, but this is the first time I've been irritated. He took a deep breath and calmed down his furious emotions. He then closed his eyes and suddenly released his vast spiritual power, which instantly enveloped the entire town. With almost no effort, he directly sensed the location of the gang of robbers. Fang Qingyan's eyes suddenly opened and closed. Without saying anything, he drove directly there, and the carriage sped away along the stone-paved alley. In a house, boss. This kid seems to be dying. The armored Blood clan guard raised his head and asked, if you keep pumping, he'll die. A young man was lying on the floor of the living room. He had fallen into a coma due to excessive blood loss, but the rubber tube connected to his arm was still pumping blood out. Is he dying? The captain of the guards frowned, and then looked to the side. 2 shrunken bodies were stacked on the coffee table. They were the young man's parents, who had been drained of blood and died. He simply said indifferently, keep draining. It doesn't matter if they die. The family should be complete. This is not our fiefdom. There is no need to help others make long-term plans. It may be painful to kill a chicken to get eggs in your own home, but you won't have this feeling when killing someone else's chicken. Listen to the captain. The guard smiled bloodthirstily and continued to draw blood from the young man. Soon, the young man's head tilted and he died. He was drained of 4,000 milliliters. The guard's expression did not fluctuate at all, and he pulled out the needle very skillfully. He didn't continue to draw blood because the person was already dead. The blood of the dead tastes bad. The Blood clan is very picky about the taste of blood. A bag of fresh human blood can be sold for 1 silver coin, but the blood of the dead can only be sold for 5 copper coins. This family of 3 in the town of Bonn was killed in this way. Putting away the blood bags, they prepared to go to the next one. Captain, we are crossing the border to collect blood. Won't that anger Count Castain? Hee, that old monster went to the front line to fight. Whether he can come back alive is uncertain. Besides, we are following the orders of His Highness Marston. What are you afraid of? He, that's true. His Highness Marston Brooke is the successor of the Marquis. Even if Castain knew, he wouldn't dare to say anything. Good to know. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two of them talked and laughed, push the door open and go out. Let's go, next stop. That the captain leads the way. Then at this moment, a voice came to my ears from behind. Your next stop is hell. Fang Qingyan walked towards him step by step with no expression on his face. I'll give you a ride. P.S. The new book's performance is not good, and it really needs support. If you like this book, please vote for a free flower review. The author will work hard to write the words. Thank you everyone. Chapter 11. Who? Marston Brooke's 2 personal guards were suddenly startled, and one of them yelled sharply, when he saw clearly that the person walking towards the 2 of them turned out to be an untouchable in black robes. He realized that this was a false alarm. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The 2 vampires were about to attack, but at this moment, an extremely terrifying will suppress them like a mountain. Fang Qingyan was too lazy to talk nonsense. His pupils suddenly became deep and dark, as bottomless as an abyss. The invisible but vast spiritual power was suddenly released, like tentacles, extending forward. Both of them had a look of fear on their faces at the same time, because they found that their bodies were unable to move at all, and even their thinking became extremely slow, like a statue. Superpower, imprisoning gaze. You, who are you? That the guard asked, his heart filled with fear. This untouchable turned out to be a high-level vampire with superpowers. Fang Qingyan's face was as cold as frost, and he walked step by step, but passed between the 2 people who were standing still. Then without squinting, he walked into the house just now. After seeing the cold bodies of the young man and his parents in the living room, Fang Qingyan took a deep breath, turned around suddenly. His eyes were locked on the 2 robbers like evil ghosts. Force into people's houses, collect blood illegally, and endanger people's lives. Fang Qingyan's voice was extremely cold. According to the laws of the kingdom, you 2 will be buried with this family. Murderous. Both vampires were frightened to death by Fang Qingyan's strong murderous intention. There is no doubt that he has murderous intentions. Don't kill us. We are the people of Earl Marston. The guard captain said hurriedly with a trembling voice. Earl Marston Brooke, he is the heir of the Marquis. We are just following orders. And the laws of the kingdom essentially protect the interests of the nobles. Another person immediately added, no one would really blame the nobles for the death of a few humans. You can't punish us according to the law. If you do so, you will offend Earl Marston. That is tantamount to fighting with cloth. The Rua clan is the enemy. The 2 of them were really afraid that this stupid young man would kill them, so I immediately moved out the backers behind me. However, Fang Qingyan's expression remained unchanged. You are guilty, but I will not punish you with the law, because you do not deserve such a solemn and dignified death. He suddenly raised his hand, his eyes cold. There was a crisp pop sound and he snapped his fingers. The next moment, the 2 vampires felt as if their minds were being pierced by billions of long needles, as if their bodies were being eaten by billions of insects and ants. A surge of pain that exceeded the limits of a creature's endurance hit. They let out shrill screams. Their facial features were distorted and deformed, the flesh on their faces trembled, and tears and mucus came out instantly. Ah! Kill me! Kill me quickly! That they roared. howled, and begged wildly. No one could imagine the pain the two were suffering. It hurts so much that even my soul is trembling. Superpower, pain manipulation. Use mental power to inflict extreme pain on the target. The greater the difference in mental power, the greater the effect. There is no doubt that Fang Qingyan's mental power is hundreds of times more powerful than these two guards, which means that they will enjoy a painful torture that is worse than death. The screams of pain echoed throughout the town of Bon. Although the villagers did not dare to go out to watch, they were all relieved. Just by listening to the voices, you can guess how miserable those two guys are. There is reincarnation in the way of heaven. Who will be spared by heaven? After 3 full minutes, the screams suddenly stopped. 2 vampires who regarded human life as nothing were tortured to death. Fang Qingyan glanced at the 2 corpses on the ground indifferently. Distortion, pain, ferocity, regret, all kinds of expressions were frozen on their lifeless faces, but he still felt that these 2 guys died too easily. In the small town of Bon, more than 20 innocent villagers died of excessive blood extraction by 2 vampires. Among them were old men, women, and children. Fang Qingyan did not feel that he was doing justice for heaven. He was just following his own way. Not far away is the blood collection vehicle with the Brooke family emblem printed on it. Fang Qingyan took off the blood bags from the car and put them back on his carriage. If the blood is taken away by them, Fang Qingyan will definitely not be able to complete the task of collecting blood, unless he does not care about the life and death of the villagers and draws people to death. After disposing of the body and carriage, he resumed his work. To his surprise, every time he went to a house, the villagers who opened the door were very positive and enthusiastic towards him, but what was most unforgettable to Fang Qingyan was the gratitude in their eyes when they looked at him. "Don't worry, sir, we will keep it a secret for you. We guarantee with our lives that we won't tell anyone what happened tonight," an old human said quietly to Fang Qingyan. The villagers also know what the Brooke clan represents in the city of Lahmia. It was very clear that this young and handsome man had actually done something very despicable. Give him a peach and repay him with a plum. The villagers were grateful to Fang Qingyan for his righteous deed, so I will try my best to protect him. However, Fang Qingyan smiled and said nothing more. To put it bluntly, strength is respected. If he didn't have this strength, he probably wouldn't dare to meddle in this matter. Others were afraid of the Brooke clan, but Fang Qingyan had no such concerns. At worst, he would leave Nicola and go far away. System, I want to sign in the town of Bon. Ding! The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for getting Marquis Essence and Blood X3. Fang Qingyan's eyes lit up. That way, he had what he needed to break through. 3 drops of Marquis Blood Essence is enough to be promoted to Earl. Chapter 12. The next day, noon, Fang Qingyan finally collected all the taxes, and returned to Castinburg for business smoothly, completed the task very successfully. But other members of the tax collection team were not so lucky. 56,000 milliliters of blood are missing. Old butler Albert stared at one person sharply and asked sternly, "Did you hide it secretly? Tell the truth." "No, I didn't. They are members of the Brooke family. They crossed the border to collect blood. I didn't dare to stop them." Not only him, but several other people also failed to complete the amount of blood food required by the tax. It's not that they are lining their pockets, it's that the taxpayers have already had their blood drawn in advance and there is really nothing they can squeeze out. Old butler Albert was stunned for a moment, then his expression became extremely ugly, and he gritted his teeth. Damn it! These unreasonable bandits are really unabashed robbery. He actually believed the tax collection team's words. There was no doubt at all. When Fang Qingyan saw this, his eyes flashed slightly. Not only the small town of Bon, but almost all the small towns in the Castain fiefdom were ravaged by the Brooke family. Moreover, judging from the performance of the old butler Albert, this is not the first time that this kind of thing has happened. He was more curious about how the old housekeeper would handle this matter. "Well." Albert sighed helplessly, waved his hands and said, "Forget it, you all go back and rest." Never mind. Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As expected, forget it, the arm cannot twist the thigh. The big noble bullies the small noble, just like the small noble bullies the common people. The weaker party can only feel resentment in their hearts, but dare not speak out. this is the food chain and contempt chain of the blood clan. Of course, the most critical factor is that Count Castain left and went to the Draenor Mountains, otherwise, the Brooke clan should not be so arrogant. You are the only one who completed the task. Albert looked at Fang Qingyan, very surprised. Didn't the Brooke family gangsters go to Bon Town? Fang Qingyan shrugged his shoulders. I think so, I didn't meet them. He couldn't say, they came, but unfortunately they couldn't go back, and I killed them all. Albert believed it. You are so lucky, go and collect the reward of 10 silver coins. As for the others, naturally there is no reward, but they have to accept severe punishment. Rules are rules. Thank you. If there is nothing else, I will go back and rest. Go ahead. Alas, today is really unlucky. Humph. When the Earl comes back, he will definitely seek justice for us. 10 silver coins are Fang Qingyan's 3-month salary, but he doesn't care about this money at all. In the past few months, he signed in and got a lot of precious materials as rewards. All of them were sold on the black market. Fang Qingyan has saved thousands of gold coins, which can be said to be rich and wealthy. He even has the ability to buy a house in the central area of Lahmia city. But he doesn't value gold and silver. Money is external, only strength is the guarantee of life. After a busy night of collecting taxes, he was allowed to rest for a day. After returning to the cabin, Fang Qingyan was about to lie in his love coffin and use 3 drops of the Marquis's blood to break through the life level. However, he suddenly remembered a very serious thing. His coffin was broken by himself. It was broken when practicing the secret art of transformation of daily vampires. He held his forehead helplessly. I need a new coffin. On the one hand, it can increase the success rate of breakthrough, and on the other hand, it can block the noise caused by breakthrough. Fang Qingyan murmured to himself, but it's daytime now, the time when vampires rest. The black market is closed. Even if I want to buy it, I can't. You can place an order, but the coffin will be received tomorrow at the latest. Why wait until tomorrow when you can break through today? I have to find another way. Suddenly, Fang Qingyan had an idea in his mind and remembered something. Isn't Count Castain not in the castle? No one uses his coffin. It's such a waste to leave it idle. His eyes shone with an unusually bright luster. He said that he didn't have mysophobia and didn't mind the coffins that others had lain in. Castain Castle is very big. The Count's bedroom is also very luxurious, filled with all kinds of precious collections. The door was locked, and there were servants guarding in front of the door, but for Fang Qingyan, who was at the peak of the Viscount realm, this was useless. Without Castain, he was the king of this castle. He entered this luxurious bedroom without any effort. An extremely gorgeous black and gold coffin came into view, with a heavy and majestic atmosphere. It was obviously a corpse-raising coffin of excellent quality, which was definitely not a luxury that ordinary nobles could enjoy. The air was also filled with the refreshing smell of spices. This earl really enjoyed life. Bang! Fang Qingyan kicked open the lid of the coffin, then he lay down in it and pulled the lid over to close it. He immediately felt a very special energy wrapping around him, which instantly calmed his mind and nourished his mental power, so that he could enter a meditative state at any time. High-end, atmospheric, and classy. Sure enough, a good coffin is the face of the blood clan. Damn, I will also get a set of such high-end configurations someday. Fang Qingyan thought. Without further ado, he immediately took out a drop of the Marquis blood, took a deep breath, and swallowed it. Suddenly, the pure and huge life energy exploded in his body. He began to break through. P.S. Xiaopuji needs the support of the big guys. Please give me flowers, please give me evaluation votes, please give me monthly votes, please give me rewards. The author doesn't want to play standalone games. It's so lonely. Chapter 13. The extremely luxurious Count Marston Castle. As the heir of Marquis Brooke, Marston enjoys aristocratic privileges far beyond that of ordinary earls. The area and scale of this castle are more than 5 times larger than Castellino Castle. At this moment, in the magnificent palace, a handsome young man with a demonic look sat high on a luxurious mink chair, hugging 2 gorgeous vampire women on his left and right. What did you say? Marston Brooke made a sinister sound in his throat, and his narrow eyes revealed a cruel look. Someone from the blood collection team is missing. Yes, Your Highness. The commander of the royal guards put his right arm on his chest, saluted respectfully, and said calmly, "Two people from the blood collection team who went to Count Castain's fiefdom failed to return. Did they run away with the blood food? Hey, you are so brave. It is also possible that he was killed." The guard leader said calmly, "Although a cart of blood food is valuable, my men have received strict training, and the probability of him embezzling blood food and running away is very small." Earl Marston heard this and pushed away the people who were entangled with him, his eyes flashing with ferocity. "Go. Find out who did it. Killing my people is a provocation to the authority of this earl and a disrespect to the Brooke clan. They must be severely punished. If you want to track down the murderer, I have to lead the team to Castini Castle. This will offend Earl Castini. I need your highness's handwritten order." The guard leader knelt on one knee and asked for instructions. Earl Marston laughed and said, "Castain can become the earl because of the blood essence given by my father. He is just a dog of our Brooke family. But your highness, the Marquis went to the front line to fight and has not returned yet." The guard leader hesitated and said, "It is better to be cautious. It was not just Earl Castini's fiefdom that was robbed. Marston has offended many nobles, big and small. In a few days, this guy made millions of gold coins by selling blood food, that is to say, he has the support of the Brooke clan behind him, otherwise Marston would have been beaten to death 10,000 times. You don't have to worry about anything." Earl Marston showed an indifferent expression and waved his hand. "Go ahead and check it out. As the commander of my guards, you also have the glory of the Brooke family. You don't need to be polite to those ordinary nobles. You can show the tyranny and dominance of the Brooke clan." "I obey the order." That the blood roared wildly in the body. The two auras of extreme yin and extreme yang complement each other in the mind, composing the melody of life. Fang Qingyan felt that every cell of his body was more excited and active than ever before. His body was undergoing an amazing transformation, the flesh was being reshaped, and the soul was sublimating. Boom, boom, boom. The heart beat like a drum, strong and powerful, if it weren't for Castain's love coffin shielding the noise. Such a terrifying heartbeat could be transmitted 10 kilometers away. A drop of Marquis's blood essence was absorbed, but Fang Qingyan still didn't break through to the Earl realm. The life level needs to achieve qualitative change. I need more and purer life energy, that he thought in his heart, and then flipped his hand again, took out the second drop of Marquis's blood essence, and took it decisively. Boom boom boom. The violent energy raged in the body. He started the second round of impact, however, just when Fang Qingyan was concentrating on breaking through, a group of uninvited guests came uninvited and landed in Castain Castle. "Damn it! You bastards, what are you doing here?" Albert, the old butler, was so angry that his face turned red, blowing his beard and glaring, staring at a team of dozens of guards in front of the door. "These are the hooligans of the Brooke family." The old butler was very familiar with the family emblem printed on their armor, that is the emblem of the Brooke clan, which symbolizes robbers. These guys just robbed the Castain fiefdom, and then they had the nerve to visit him. It was so shameless. Hatue. Albert wanted to bite them to death one by one. The two guards who went to Bonn to collect blood are missing.